Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Additionally, from December 12th, 2019 through January 27th, 2020, if you use this promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing to win a Theros Beyond Death Draft Booster Box. Also, there is another way to enter where no purchase is necessary. See the link in the description below for full details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another day of Theros Beyond Death previews. We got to look at the last Planeswalker today, a lot of other cool cards too, and as a reminder, if you're curious as to where these cards were originally previewed, check out the description below, all that information is down there. Also, quick reminder, if you go over to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use that Heroes promo code, save 10% on orders over $10, and if you do that now, you're also going to be entered into a drawing to win a draft booster box of Theros Beyond Death. All the details are also in the description below, and whenever you use the promo code, it supports the channel. So thank you, and without any further ado, let's get into it. First, we're going to look at a few cards that we talked about yesterday, but we saw their regular versions. Today, we're seeing their special variations. The first three are Archon of Sun's Grace, E2 Extinction, and Gravebreaker Alamia. And the last three are Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, and Euro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. If you want to hear my thoughts on these cards, check out yesterday's video. I'll link it at the end in case you missed it. Now, onto the new stuff. Eidolon of Obstruction. Okay, this one's a rare, and I do think it will be seeing standard play. First off, maybe you might find this in some main decks of like a mono white aggro deck, because the ability is going to be good a lot of the time. But as an aggro card, it's not bad either. A 2/1 first striker for 2, maybe you could pump it. But there's going to be a lot of other decks interested in maybe just playing this out of the sideboard because of the ability. Loyalty abilities of planeswalkers your opponents control cost 1 generic mana more to activate. This is going to be good against those fast planeswalkers, the ones that make a difference as soon as they enter the battlefield, like Nissa or Teferi, for example, in the standard format. This could even see maybe some sideboard play in Pioneer as well. In Limited, they did a good job of creating a card that's still very playable, even if you're not worried about going against planeswalkers. It will happen in Draft or Sealed, but it won't happen all too often. But that's okay, because this is a good creature on its own, 2/1 first strike for 2, and it's an enchantment, which could matter. This one's a Spanish language preview, Lagunas Storyteller, and there's not a lot to say about this one. It's a decent limited uncommon. First off, the stats are just fine, a 3/4 for 4. But what's interesting is in the Theros environment, you'll have a lot of opportunities for this ability to mean something. When it enters the battlefield, you may target an enchantment card from your graveyard and put it on top of your library. You don't have to. If you do, you gain life equal to its converted mana cost. So this could give you access to maybe an enchantment creature that's in your graveyard. In this way, you know you're going to get some heat as opposed to maybe drawing a land next turn. If you don't have a lot of good targets for this for some reason, maybe you skip it, but I think most of the time in Draft or Sealed, you will have some reason you might at least consider playing it. Tyrannica, a Crowan Veteran. This one's a rare, and another card I do think could see standard play in a mono white aggro build. So here's what you're getting. A 3 casting cost 3/3 with Vigilance. That's nice economy, and the ability is going to be great to keep pressure on your opponent. Whenever it attacks, you get to untap another target creature you control. Until end of turn, that becomes a 4/4 base power toughness creature and gains indestructible. So not only is this a decent creature on its own, not only does it also give 2 devotion to white, which could come in handy at times, I'm sure, but you're able to take that like 1 or 2 drop like little lifelink or first striker, and very quickly by turn 4 perhaps attack in with a 4/4 lifelink or first strike creature, and it untaps and is indestructible during the combat. That's exactly what the white aggro strategy needs to be successful. And granted, this is legendary, which might be awkward at times, but overall this is a very solid card. In Draft or Sealed, even if I had no other creatures on the battlefield when I played this, a 3 casting cost 3/3 Vigilance creature is still very good. The economy's great there. And a lot of the time the ability is going to be relevant, and it's going to be fantastic when you can do a similar thing in Limited as I just described in Standard. Sea God Scorn. Okay, this is very reminiscent of Sea God's Revenge from the original Theros. This gives you some flexibility though, being able to return 3 target creatures and or enchantments to their owner's hand for 6. Very good limited uncommon. This is one of those bombs that can get you past a board stall, or in a pinch, you could even bounce something of yours, like a Saga, that you might want to reset, for example. Fosses Oracle. This is a crazy rare. Check this wall of text out. 2 blue, Merfolk Wizard 1/3. When Fosses Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Yikes. Okay, so let's just go format to format with this one. We'll begin with standard. 2 ways to look at this card. Am I trying to break it and win the game, or am I just trying to play the card? You could play the card in like a mono blue devotion deck, and I think it could be good. We were talking the other day that mono blue devotion feels like it's getting a lot of strong pieces from the set. Here's another one. If I wanted to try to break the card and win the game, well, self-mill is getting a lot of pieces in this set because the Dimir colors in the limited environment do care about milling yourself. So it's at least a possibility. Okay, let's move forward to some of the older constructed formats. Pioneer, for example. What type of deck likes to have a lot of permanents? Merfolk. Now, they're not always blue nowadays, but still, if you had a Merfolk deck, it's worth trying there. And again, the self-mill plan could work as well. And that even goes for Modern, I would say, possibly even Legacy, although I do think it gets a little shakier the deeper you go. Commander players, do you like this card? Sure, you could play with this in a Merfolk build, a Wizard build, or just a deck that has a lot of blue permanents or a mono blue devotion deck because you can go pretty deep. Or you could try to win with self-mill, play with this, Jace Wielder Mysteries, Laboratory Maniac, try to make that work. And finally, limited, it's kind of the same prospects. On one hand, it's a good card, even on its own. If there were no other blue cards on the battlefield for you, you get to go too deep into your deck and see what you want to put on top. The other card would just go to the bottom. Or you play it later in the game when there's some decent blue devotion going for you. You get to go deeper and see more. Or like I said, maybe you just drafted that Dimir self-mill deck, and if Escape doesn't work out, this could be a secondary win condition. Dream Shaper Shaman. Okay, this is a good limited card. This was previously leaked, so you might have seen it before. It has some nice size behind it. You are paying 6 though, a red and 5, but you get a 5/4. It is an enchantment as well, so sometimes that does matter. And at the beginning of your end step, you may pay a red and 2, sacrifice a non-land permanent. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reach a non-land permanent, put that card on the battlefield, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's looking for a non-land permanent, and it is a little bit of a coin toss, especially in Drafter Sealed. Is it just going to hit a 2-drop? Well, even if it does, sure, it feels like you may be overpaid for that 2-drop. But at the same time, maybe you got past some lands and some junk you didn't need to get to it, and you just really needed board presence. What I'm thinking is this might be best in Rakdos colors, because Rakdos does have different payoffs for having things in the graveyard, other than just Escape, but just other color combinations might be happy with you populating the graveyard to help with Escape. Red also has a few different cards that create Satyr tokens, so this will work very well with those cards because those Satyr tokens can't even block. They're just meant to be very aggressive, and if they can't get by, you don't have a whole lot to do with them. Well, here's something you can do with them. Just go ahead and sacrifice them for value. Depending on card pools, maybe this doesn't always make your deck because 6 is an expensive spot. You might have stronger things potentially, but I think a lot of the times you will play this and it does interact well with a lot of the cards we've already seen. Commander players might also be interested in this sometimes too. It can cheat out some big things and populate the graveyard. Furious Rise. This is a sweet enchantment as long as you have large creatures, but you really need to have large creatures for this to work. Limited? Yeah, you know what? Sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it won't be so good. It depends on your pool. So if you're playing Drafter Sealed and you go into a Rakdos direction and you have a lot of small creatures, maybe some Satyr tokens, you're super aggro, then yeah, you're probably going to skip this. Gruul, on the other hand, their thing in this set is getting big creatures on the battlefield, so this would be a much better card in that type of deck. Now, either way, it's going to be disappointing if you play this for 3 and you can't trigger it. So you want to make sure you have a good amount of beefy creatures in your deck if you're going to include this one. Quickly, let's talk about Standard. I do think this might see a little bit of play, not just in any deck that's running big creatures, because you do have the issue where you don't want to tempo yourself by playing this for 3 and then having it not trigger, but maybe in a ramp deck, because ramp decks are trying to push the resources a little bit anyway. So if you could play this on turn 2, it wouldn't be as punishing if it didn't trigger right away. And you know you could ramp into some big creatures like Questing Beast, Hydroid Crisis, Riding Regisaur even. There's a lot of really big creatures in the format that we'll continue to see play into next season, I have no doubt. This one's a Spanish language preview, Skofos' Labyrinth Guardian. Fine limited card here. Let's talk about the creature portion first, then we'll talk about the ability. 3/4 for a red and 3, and you can pay 1 and it will get +1/-1 until end of turn. These type of creatures can be sometimes really annoying for your opponent to deal with on the battlefield in Drafter Sealed, because you just attack in with all your open mana, and they got decisions to make. Are they just going to take this and potentially take a good amount of damage? Are they going to try to trade with this? Sometimes these will even trade up. Definitely a good creature to have, but this does do a little more. Although, the interaction you see here is with a card that is a rare. Now, this card I'm about to talk about has not officially been previewed yet, but it has been leaked, and that's why I know what it does. So, Labyrinth of Scophos, this is a land. It does tap for colorless mana, which is nice, but other than that, it's kind of like the poor man's Maze of Ith in some ways. You pay 4, you tap it, you remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. Okay. Again, another card I'd be happy to play in Draft or Sealed, but considering it's a rare, you might not have a lot of opportunities to play with it, and then of course, on top of it, play with this card too. But if you do, they do work well together, because if you use that land's ability on any other creature excluding this one, you're able to make this creature fight if you wanted to. Combine the fact that you can fight with this, but also mess around with the power and toughness, yeah, that does feel very good in the rare occasions you do have the opportunity to do it. This one's a Spanish language preview, Destiny Weaver. Okay, so this is a powerful 2-drop. It's not messing around. Let's start with standard because I'm sure it will see play there. If nothing else, out of sideboards to deal with control builds or Simic Flash. Simic Flash is a powerful deck and it's getting more tools with this set. So this is something that could keep its counter magic in check. If there is a heavy enchantment deck in the format, maybe running a lot of enchantment creatures or something like that, then this could see play in the main deck there. Limited, yes please. A 2-drop, 2/3, you already had me right there, and then it's got all these other abilities too. Now, creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. That's not going to be as critical in Draft or Sealed, but it's nice to have. The other ability though, being able to pay a green and 3 to turn one of my lands until end of turn into an XX creature based on how many enchantments I have, and it has trample too and haste, that could actually just shift the game right into your favor. You do have to have the enchantments. This is an enchantment, so it gets you started. But I don't really think that's going to be much of an issue in this set. There's good enchantment creatures we've seen, other good auras, and just other random enchantments. I think it could add up quickly. And notice this is a mana sink. It doesn't tap or anything, so I could activate this on 2 of my lands if I had 8 mana. This is such a good uncommon that I think a lot of times you might find yourself first picking this in a draft pack. Okay, here's that last Planeswalker, Calix, Destiny's Hands, of course a mythic rare. And it does have 4 loyalty to start. It costs 4 to cast, a white, a green, and 2. The +1 ability lets you dig for an enchantment. You get to go 4 deep into your library, reveal an enchantment, put it into your hand. The rest end up on the bottom in a random order. The -3 is a way to deal with a creature or enchantment on the battlefield. You get to exile a target creature or enchantment you don't control, as long as the target enchantment you control stays on the battlefield. So it is conditional removal, and it is a -3 ability. So you do want to make sure you have a lot of enchantments in your deck, most likely, if you're going to play something like this and really rely on that -3 anyway. The -7, that's going to be a ways away and hard to pull off, but if you do it, all enchantment cards from your graveyard get to go back to the battlefield. Powerful effect if you ever do get there. Let's start with standard first. Obviously, you want a good amount of enchantments if you play this, but this will be especially good with gods. It's going to let you dig for your gods in your library, and it's also going to be able to use the god with a -3, and having an enchantment/enchantment creature that's indestructible is going to be relatively durable to hopefully keep whatever you wanted to keep off the battlefield in exile. The -7 is just going to be a win more for you, but I do like the card for the first 2 abilities, if nothing else. But it does play into a very narrow strategy, so don't expect to see this in every deck in the format. Commander players, if you play enchantment builds, you're going to love this card. You can slide it right into those existing decks. Limited, it will be great for you within this environment because you have so many enchantments, so many enchantment creatures. You're going to have plenty of targets to dig for in your deck. The -3 could be very applicable too in most games. So being a mythic planeswalker, it should be good, and yeah, it will be good for you in Draft or Sealed. Enigmatic Incarnation. Okay, I like that name. The card's weird though. It has that birthing pod kind of vibe. It costs you Simic and 2. It's an enchantment. So if you don't have a target for this, this is a forecasting cost sit on the battlefield card. I don't love that, especially for one of my rares. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment, so you can't use this one if you want to. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So here's what's going against this card, other than the fact that I just mentioned you might pay 4 and have nothing to do with it. Unlike Birthing Pod or Vanifar, you can't create a situation where you can use this more than 1 time per turn, and that's an issue. Secondly, only being able to sacrifice an enchantment does make this a lot more narrow. Granted, we are getting a lot of enchantment creatures in this new set, and maybe there's some really good ones we haven't seen yet that could work well with this. But you do want some relatively cheaper ones to hopefully chain up, and you want to have good enters and leaves the battlefield effects. I'm not sold that we've seen a standard deck yet with that type of thing, but maybe we could get there. Maybe someone will figure it out, but I do think it's going to be a long shot. Commander, that's where I think this card will be at its best, because if you put this in an enchantment-heavy deck, you're going to have more powerful plays. There's a number of enchantments, actually, that will give you some kind of ability when they go from the battlefield to the graveyard. You could use this in conjunction with those. Rancor is probably one of the more fun things I can think to do with this because of the repeatability. So yeah, there are powerful plays when you start opening the span of the Magic library a little bit. Limited, if this is your rare, you might not be too happy, especially in sealed. Draft, maybe you could try to build around this thing, but it's going to be a lot of work. To some degree, this will play well with the omens because they give you an ability and then they kind of sit on the battlefield unless you decide to use their sacrifice ability. Instead, you could use it for this. These type of abilities are hard to make work well in a 40-card deck because other than the original drawback I mentioned of paying 4 for this and maybe not being able to do anything, which would be really bad if you were behind. But you also have to have a enchantment or enchantment creature that you want to sacrifice to this. Then you want to have a good variety of different costed creatures in that 40-card deck. And you have to do this early enough that you don't start depleting the deck to the point where you might not have the next card up. And that could be kind of awkward. So yeah, good luck because this is going to be a tough build if you go for it. Not to say it would fail 100% of the time. There might be that magical pool out there where it does work. But most of the time, I think this is a rare that sits in your sideboard. Altar of the Pantheon. This is a good limited mana rock. You're going to be happy with this. First off, if you just need mana of any color, you want to ramp out or fix a little bit. 3 casting cost. It's an artifact. It's at common. You'll be able to find it, hopefully. Tap and add 1 mana of any color. There's also some incidental life gain there, perhaps, if you control a god, which, okay, might not be likely. But a demigod might be relatively likely. Those are at uncommon. Or a legendary enchantment, then you gain a life. Okay, that could add up over the course of the game. Because remember, even if you don't need the mana at the end of your opponent's turn, you could just tap this and gain a life if you meet the requirement. And also, your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. That could come in handy too. So put it all together, fair amount of value here. Commander, if you're playing a devotion deck, maybe with some Theros gods, for example, yeah, you'll play this mana rock over some of the others and be pretty happy with it. Finally, standard. I have heard talk of people trying to brew like a multiple god deck with Fires of Invention. If that deck could get there, maybe this card would be a part of it to help you meet your devotion requirements. All right, with that being said, those are the cards for today. We're going to come back tomorrow, look at all the cards that are previewed over the next 24 hours. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.